Okay, for today, I am going to tell you how to find the degree of a polynomial and what the heck a polynomial actually is, and evaluating, which just means sticking a number in to a polynomial. And then we're going to add and subtract polynomials, which is just like, here, that's a polynomial, plus 4a, and that's a polynomial. And I bet you're not going to be surprised to hear that that's 2a and 4a make 6a. Yay! That's about as simple as they can get. This is a polynomial with degree 1. That's another polynomial with degree 1. And now I just added them. And 2 and the 4 make 6. And if it's like 2 apples and 4 apples make 6 apples. Why isn't it squared? Because we weren't multiplying. If we were multiplying, then it'd be squared. All right, so that's about as simple as I can summarize for today. This is degree 1 because it has a power of 1, and it still ends with a power of 1. And that's what we're going to be doing. All right, so the only thing I'm going to add on in the end is how to multiply them, because that's what tomorrow's lesson would be. But again, because I'm going to be gone tomorrow, I'm just going to throw on the multiply part at the very end. Everybody go to this slide right here, and this is degree 2. Why? Because this is the biggest power that there is. That's all there is to it. You don't add them or anything. You just ask yourself, what is the biggest power that is there? So that's a degree 2. Don't add the powers. It's really common for people to think you add them all up. Don't do that. You just take the biggest one. All right. So next, how do you tell if something is a polynomial? Well, a polynomial has to have some rules about it. And notice that every single one of these has normal powers. If there's any weird power, like a negative power or a fraction power, then it's not really a polynomial. So these are all polynomials. They're all polynomials because they don't have any weird powers. So that's what the question's going to be on the test, is they're going to say, which of these is a polynomial? And you should focus on the powers. If the powers are normal, like, 6s and 5s and 2s, it doesn't even have to have a power on it like that. Like, I could think of that as x to the 0, by the way. As long as the powers are normal, it's polynomial. So what's the degree of this one? You just pick the biggest one. So what's the degree of this first one? Well, it would be degree 6. What's the degree of this one? It would be degree, be careful, 4. Now, why isn't it the one I want in the front? Because they don't have to put the biggest one in the front. But you're supposed to. So that's a different type of question. One of the questions on your homework is going to be to put it in the right order. And this one is not in the right order. The way I think of this sometimes, my son and daughter-in-law are in the military. And if you put a bunch of people on stage, you would put them in order of their rank. Okay, so if you got a captain, that's above a lieutenant, and that's above a private. And so they would put them in order. And this would be a little bit weird. This would be like a 4-star general, and the 4-star general should be in front. Okay, so they really should be over here, and they would take the sign with them and they move over there. It'd be negative x to the 4th. That x to the 3rd is positive x to the 3rd. Plus 7x minus 2. Do you have to do that every time? Only if they ask you. But how they'd ask you is they'd say, put this in standard form. So standard form just has the biggest one first. And then this next one smallest. And then there was no x squareds. That's okay. But the next one would be x to the 1. And this one doesn't have any x's, or you could think of it as having an x to the 0 on it. Don't have to put that. Okay. So now, what's the degree of it? Which is all they really asked. It's 4. It's just the biggest power. All right. Let's go on to this page. We're going fast because it's easy. Put this in standard form. That's the thing I just talked about. If you understood what I said, you'd realize that this is not in the right order. Would you please just rearrange it right now? Write this. Now, one of the keys to my class you'll find is that I insist on you trying stuff every now and then. Like, you can listen for a little while, but then I'll say, okay, try this one. All right? I've also noticed one student sneak their cell phone out and use it during class. Yours is not being used, but could you put it away, please? If you get caught using your cell phone during class, unfortunately, that means I have to send an email home to mom and dad immediately, like before the end of the day, saying, hey, your kid's using their cell phone during class. This happens 3 times. They're going to lose their cell phone privileges. Okay, so just don't take your cell phone out during class. It's really easy. During work time, you'll be able to take it out. Okay? So now that I've warned you, you have your fair warning. So I won't bust anybody for it today unless you take it out right now, which would be really dumb. Okay, so back to, if I was going to put this thing in order, that one's first. The negative goes with it. And once I put that first, I can just like scribble it out and I go, what's the next biggest one? I guess that would be. So then I go plus 7x to the third. There has to be something in there, so if you're not sure what to put a plus. The next thing would be this one, plus 3x. And the last one would be plus 9. There, now it's in standard form. There's a couple of more things you'd be expected to know. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. Those are called terms. It's got 4 terms. It's degree 6. And it's a polynomial because all the powers are normal. Polynomial is like powers nominal. I know, I'm making up words, but polynomial means the powers are normal. So watch out for that, because at some point we're going to have some that have like a weird power, like a fraction or a negative power, and those aren't polynomials. Is this a polynomial? Yeah, all the powers are normal. Is it in the right order? No, let's not even do it, but we would put that first, then this would be second, and this would be third, and this would be last. That's all there is to it. Okay, on to the next page. Go to this white page. Adding and subtracting them. One of the things we don't talk about very much is whether a set of parentheses can be dropped. Okay? These can be dropped. Now, I would not waste the time to rewrite this whole problem without the parentheses, but you could. Versus if there had been a minus in there and then the parenthesis cannot be dropped. There's a big difference there. Why can't it get dropped if there's a negative here? Because you got to go through and put the negative on everything. It's like a -1 getting multiplied on each thing. Do you get what I mean? You got to do that first, and then you could drop the parentheses. All right, so back to this guy. It's like the parentheses aren't even there. And you're just putting this with this. I think you know what the answer to that is, but I don't know. If you know what that is, would you please put them together and write it right here? Then you should put the x squared with any other x squareds, but pro tip, there aren't any other x squareds, so you just bring that down next. All right, now, so that you can tell that I'm not picking on you, I sometimes will use the dice of destiny. And that's the bigger die here is the row, and then the smaller one is what seat you're in. And this is row 2, seat 5. So Riley Keegan, that's you. Can you tell me what you got when you put these two together?
7x.
You got it, 7x to the third. Now sometimes I'll just call on people like, Jack, I think you know what to put next. What goes here?
6x squared
Good. What should I put in front of it though?
minus.
I believe you. I think there must be a minus there. You are correct, sir. Minus 6x squared. Good. Now it's going to be the x's, which are these guys. And negative 7x and plus an x makes negative 6x. And if you were not good at that because you're not awesome at the simple calculations, we allow calculators in here. So it'd be totally fine to use your iPad's calculator or a regular calculator to go negative 7 plus the 1. And that would give you the negative 6. Got to remember it was x's though. This is the only number that doesn't have an x. So you just put a 3. And that's it. That's in order. It's a 4-term polynomial, and it's got a degree of 3. Do you get this would be pretty easy? You just drop the parentheses right away because you're adding. And then you just put these with these, and that'd be easy, I think. So let's not do it. It's just going to waste time. This is where kids mess up because they forget to change one of the signs. So take a second, distribute the negative so that each of these turns to the opposite sign of what it was. It's like opposite day. Then combine the like terms, like that is going to go with that. Put them all together, write what you think the answer is. In a second, I'm going to have you turn and talk to the kid next to you. For a lot of you, that's going to be easy because it'll be the person like literally across from you. So in a second, I'm going to have you compare. So please, write this out carefully. And then I'll tell you who you are paired with. This is not like a permanent, this has to be your partner on tests and stuff. Every now and then, rarely. Sometimes, we have partner tests. All right, did you realize this was negative? Because the negative 1 changes it. So it's now negative 2x to the third. Goes with the 3x to the third. And 3x to the third minus the 2x to the third. They're both x to the thirds. So it just really comes down to 3 minus 2, which would be 1x to the third. So you should have had 1x to the third. Now we go to the next term, where this negative 9 is going to go with this. It's not negative 6 anymore. It's not negative 6 because you had to do opposite day. Your negative had to hit that and makes it positive 6x. And this positive 5 turns into negative 5. Again, this was negative 2x squared. So I multiplied that all by negative 1 so that I could get all of them to be opposite of what they were. And then I put this with this and made that. Finish it off. Put this with this and put the 4x. I guess there aren't any x's to go with it, so the 4x is just 4x. And there's no other number with the negative 5. You should be able to have your final answer right here. And this will be a super easy one for you to compare with the kid next to you. The only thing I want you to do right now is to introduce yourself to them. And please take a second and write their name down, because you know that like literally 5 minutes from now you're gonna be like, what was their name? So take a second and just write Adam or whatever their name is on your page so you can refer back to it in a second. Okay? So it's these 2 rows straight across. There is a person there. Talk to them, compare the answer, and get their name. Just their name. First name only. These 2 rows, person straight across, and the only person who doesn't have a partner there. So you're going to talk to the 2 people behind you. All right? And the partners here is you 3 are in one group of 3. You 2 and you 3. 1, 2, 3 like this. Okay, so it's hardest for you because you have to go with the people in front and behind you. Okay, get their name. Go. Okay, cool. At least you know one kid in here. And excuse me. Now I'm gonna get the final answer here. I'm gonna get one of you guys to tell me. It's row 2, person 6. Braun, that's you. Can you tell me what the final answer was? 1x to the third.
1x to the third plus 3x to the second plus 4x minus 5.
I think it's minus 3x to the second. I could be wrong, but let's talk about the x to the second. So we're just.
Oh, no, yeah, it is negative.
Okay, good. You missed that negative there? All right. So I'm going to make sure I got this right now. Negative 9x to the second, and this was a positive 6x to the second, and together that makes negative 3x to the second. So if If I said it wrong in the first place, I apologize, but that's what your middle term should be. And then, did you have the 4x next?
Yeah.
All right. And I think it's just plus 4x, isn't it? And then minus 5. Raise your hand if you had that same answer that I see on the board. Excellent. Okay. Is this the super easy kind where you just drop the parentheses? No, it's not. You just have to make these are all opposites of what they were. Let's not do it. It would take too much time. I try to be careful with your time. All right. So if it was a normal day, we'd be done and you'd have a whole bunch of work time. And it will be kind of cool to tomorrow have a ton of work time, because I'm going to continue on for just a second, talk about multiplying, which is what tomorrow's lesson would be. All right, so let's talk about multiplying. You don't have to write this, just watch for a second. This is multiplying polynomials. You've done this before. You just go like this times that. Okay, if you had to multiply that, you'd be able to multiply them, right? That's a polynomial with two terms. That's just a polynomial. It's only got one term. And if I multiplied it, 2x times x would be 2x squared. And 2x times the 3 would make 6x, right? You get how that works? So there's nothing really new here. You multiplied the polynomials. So what if they said, take x squared plus 3x plus 3. Would you agree that is a second degree polynomial? Are you with me on the... Okay, sorry, that got distracting. Dolma, would you shut the door back there, please? Thank you. So, we'll wait till that door gets shut. All right, so would you agree this is a second degree polynomial? Now, the easiest thing I could do is multiply it by like 3, but that's too easy. What if I multiplied it by x plus 3? I'd want it in parentheses. Everybody please copy that down. I'm only going to ask you to do like one of these, maybe 2. Copy this one down. Now, there isn't any little like name like FOIL for this. You don't have a name for it. But when you're multiplying these two polynomials, a way to think of it is that everything gets multiplied by everything. So you got to stay organized. I like to do it this way. I like to act like that x isn't even there. Like if that x wasn't even there, wouldn't you know that you'd just go this times this and this times this and this times that? Like you'd get that, wouldn't you? But of course, it is there. That x is actually there. And so you just have to go do them separately. Now this x gets times by this and that and that. I call this the giant clam. So when the diver goes down and sees these giant clams, I know you might not be seeing it, but the hinge would be like back here, and this is where the clam opens. The giant clam, they are like cemented to the ocean floor. I got a chance to see them in Japan when I visited my son while he was in the Air Force on Okinawa. We got to snorkel off of Okinawa, and it was so cool. You see things there you don't even see in Hawaii, like these giant clams. And I got a chance to actually, I've been talking about it all these years, but it was just like last year I got a chance to go there and see them. The giant clam, when you touch on the inside, if you just kind of poke it a little bit, even if you just get close, the thing is super sensitive and it can tell something got close and they slam shut. So they kind of keep open so that they can sift through things in the ocean. But one thing that's true about these that is a little scary is that they are, remember I said they were cemented to the ocean floor? If you come across a giant clam, and some people will reach in there to touch because the inside it's really cool. It's like translucent, it glows a little bit, and it's like super tempting to reach in there and touch. If you actually get your hand in there and the thing shuts, now you are cemented to the ocean floor. And even if you had, if you were snorkeling, you know you probably have about 3 minutes before you run out of air and you're stuck to the ocean floor. Okay, so people have died before from touching a giant clam and the thing shuts in their hand. Even if you're like, well, I would be a scuba diver, I'd have a tank on my back. Do you think the tank's going to last forever? No, so you'd have some serious problem. because you can't get your hand out of there. They're huge and they're cemented to the ocean floor and they're just like super heavy. So anyway, look but don't touch. All right, so if you actually did this problem, you should have said the 3 times the x squared is 3x squared. The 3 times the 3x is 9x. The 3 times the 3 is 9. Then I'm going to go through and do my x. My x now is times by the x squared. I hope you know this rule. On this kind, the powers get added. X to the third. X to the 1 times x to the second is x to the third. Powers get added. So plus x to the third. Don't worry about the order. We'll do that later when we put it all, simplify it down at the end. Now the x times the 3x, this part right here, x times the 3x, and that's going to make 3x squared. And then the x times the 3. X times the 3 is just 3x. Now, you should know ahead of time that you are going to get 3 for this part and 3 for that part, makes 6 total parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. And then you just got to add the like terms. So there is how you multiply polynomials. And if you really didn't get that, there will be a 4-minute video tomorrow, 4 minutes, that will show you how to do that again. But everything in the first parenthesis gets multiplied by everything in the second parenthesis. And then you just add the like terms. 3x squared and another 3x squared, they're alike. 6x squared. The 9x goes with the 3x, and that makes 12x. There's an x to the third here, but nothing else to go with it. So then you just put it in front because it's like the boss. X to the third. If I don't know what sign to put a plus. Because that, of course, if I say 9 is assumed that I meant plus 9, right? So that's why we can assume it's a plus if there's no negative. And then last but not least, my regular 9 has nothing to go with it, so I just put 9. And there's my final answer. Fourth degree? No. 4 terms. Third degree. All right, you've learned 2 days worth of math. Normally, the lessons would be shorter than this. But now, there's a Schoology quiz for today, which I'm going to strongly recommend you just do that one. Because that'll give you something to do tomorrow. Tomorrow in class is another Schoology quiz. So let's open up the Schoology quiz. I'll help you get it started. My dad always said if you were started on a job, you were halfway done with it. Because half the problem is just getting started. So please find the Schoology quiz that is in today's folder. Now, I could read off the names of who's opened it. It's almost everybody, but there's like 5 people that haven't opened it. Get it open quickly, please. Could you read me number 1? Would you read me number 1?
F of x equals 2x to the 4th minus x squared plus x minus 8.
2x to the 4th minus x squared, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
And then what?
Plus x minus 8.
Awesome. Now what do they want me to do?
Find the degree and then if f of x is f.
Oh, okay. I'm glad we talked because we never even once did something like f of -1. So we'll do that in a second. But to start with, what's the degree? It's easy. It's 4 because that's the biggest power. So all you got to do is put a 4 in the blank for the degree. But what's f of -1? All that means, you've heard of f of x before, right? All they're saying is that, hey, I want you to stick -1 in where we would normally put x. X is -1. So here's the best way. There is a best way. You take the problem, you put a parenthesis where the x was, because it actually matters. Some of you may not believe me, but when you put this into a calculator, the fact that it's in parentheses here, each one of these x's is an empty parentheses, it will positive for sure do it right. we want to put in -1 where the x was, you got to put it in a parenthesis. The reason really is this, if you don't believe me, -1 to the 4th has a different answer than parentheses -1 to the 4th. This one comes out negative and this one comes out positive, so the parentheses matter. You really need the parentheses. Okay, so for each x, put a parentheses and a -1. Parentheses around the x and a -1. And then if you want to, you can just type that all in your calculator. Now, I personally am pretty good at doing these in my head, but I don't know if you are. Depends on you. I could do all of this and know that it comes out to +1, and then times 2 is 2. This part would come out to +1, but then there's another negative left over. Okay, so then I got 2 minus 1. And then this part is a -1, and this part is a -8. And then once I got it down to that, it's this I think anybody could do in their head probably. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. 0 minus 8 is -8. Anybody else get -8? Good. I'm seeing some nodding heads. If you didn't get what I just did, all you have to do is put a parenthesis around where each x was and stick a -1 in, and then just type it into your calculator. It'll do all the hard work if you use the parentheses. If you don't use the parentheses, you'll get it wrong. Almost guaranteed. So take a second and use the parentheses. All right, so there's number 1. Let's just do one more. Alex Wilhelm, read number 2.
F of x equals -7x to the 3rd plus x5 x squared.
X to the 5th, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus 4x squared.
Anything more?
And you're looking for the degree.
Oh, okay.
Of 3.
Degree, and then f of what?
3.
3, thank you very much. Okay, the degree on this one, don't get trapped into thinking it's always the first one. It's the biggest one. So the answer on this one is it's degree 5. And then f of 3. All you got to do, stick a 3 right here. I would seriously use a calculator on this one because it's got some pretty big powers. Like 3 to the 5th, that's huge. So I'd probably type this puppy in exactly how you see it with the parentheses. All right. Now tomorrow will be about multiplying polynomials, which we already talked about. I called it the giant clam method. If you have to, you can go back and watch this video again if you want to. But I have a separate little 4-minute video for them for your reference for tomorrow. But finish up this Schoology quiz, and then for tomorrow, all you got to do is another Schoology quiz, which you'll probably finish early, so definitely bring something else to do. And the sub tomorrow will just have a guided work time after the video. That's all I got for you.